What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome to another video. It's currently 10:43 p.m. on Tuesday the 10th of October 2023, and we're going to be looking at price action. If you've watched yesterday's video, you know that price delivered absolutely beautifully, so that's nice to see. But I'm going to be starting with the weekly, and I'm just going to mark out this fair value gap that I can see price likely going to draw to. But yeah, price delivered great today. We do have CPI tomorrow, so we have to be quite careful. But you can see that we've also closed in this fair value gap. So the fact that we've traded through it, and it looks like we're going to close below it. I'm going to drop down to the daily in a second. But the fact that we've closed, the fact that we traded through it shows, bearish ideals, meaning that we can start to look for this as a potential draw on liquidity. So I'll just write out weekly fair value gap. And then we can drop down to the daily and have a look at the price action today. Although I do want to carry that through, so let's just make that current interval and below. Drop down to the daily, and you'll see there's that fair value gap. You can see we traded up and then aggressively traded lower, completely filling in that weekly fair value gap. We did fail to reach the sell side liquidity, so I'm expecting that to be traded to in tomorrow during CPI. And then in terms of downside objectives, I just realized that this isn't on there either. Should be there. And then in terms of downside objectives, we have this bullish order block, which is also that weekly fair value gap as well. So I would like to see price trade down into that. And if price gets very excited, it will want to go into this fair value gap on the daily down here. But I'm not going to bother mark that out for now, because for now, obviously, I want to see this sell side liquidity grabbed and this weekly fair value gap traded to. What I am going to do is I'm going to mark out the midpoint of this weekly fair value gap, which we've just traded through. And I'm doing this because if price trades back up, for example, for the manipulation of the day, or trades back into it, I want to see it act as resistance, the 50% level act as resistance. So I'm just going to have that on the charts like so. And that means, say in the new day, oh gosh, I keep forgetting that. Right. So that means in the new day, if we do trade up any amount, I'd like to see this respected. Now, price can wick through it, as in we can trade through it back up, right? But I want to see the candle itself close like below it. So in order for me to identify that, I'm going to keep that left on my charts. What I do have my eyes on though is this wick here. Price may want to rebalance with that before expanding lower. So that's something to consider. But overall, I'm expecting a bearish day tomorrow with the sell side getting taken and a draw down into this weekly fair value gap. But like I said, with it being CPI, we can't be too sure. Let's go to the hourly. I'll quickly just mark out the days of the week. So this is Tuesday here, we have Monday here, and then we're going into Wednesday. And you'll see how we aggressively traded lower, came back up, filled this range. So this range now, from here to here, this is all filled. So there's not really reason for price to need to go back through there until this sell side's grabbed. So after this sell side gets grabbed, only then will I expect this to potentially be traded through on the upside. But obviously, as I was saying, I am biased in terms of wanting to see this sell side grabbed. The fact that we haven't touched it, you can see how they're building liquidity, creating the illusion of resistance there, support even, which are likely going to take during CPI. And then I would anticipate some kind of turnaround in this fair value gap. If this fair value gap does get traded through though on the downside aggressively, as in if we cover it and trade through it, then I'd expect this range down here to get traded to, but we'll have to see in the new day. Let's see if we can see any price action on the 15. You see quite a lot of a pretty basic day. You can see we had the manipulation, traded up, and then at 3 a.m. during London we traded lower right to the end of this fair value gap, weekly fair value gap. We then turned around, and then we had a setup during a setup for a continuation in the New York sessions. You can see 7 a.m. here, and then we continue lower, taking out the sell stops, and you can see we're just in consolidation now. So tomorrow I want to see the sell side grabbed, see this this weekly fair value gap traded to, and then depending on how price reacts to it, we're either going to reverse and start running back up into these highs, or we're going to continue to the downside. But in all fairness, looking at how weak we are, if we are going to turn around here, I wouldn't expect us to reach very far up. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. With CPI again, CPI does a lot of damage to the market, so I don't really want to speak too much. But let's go over to GBP. And you'll see that GBP delivered absolutely beautifully. I made a post as it was delivering. If you watched yesterday's video, you know I stated that I wanted this is a 4-hour fair value gap, this black box. I wanted to see price trade into it, offer an entry, and then expand into the buy side liquidity, which rests in here. And you can see that's exactly what happened. I did actually have a limit order below this low here. So I put my limit there, entered it as it traded down below there. We were in this for a good while, say about 3 hours during London, before the expansion to the upside. Then we pull back, and then we had a continuation during the New York session. Let's go to the daily though, and let's see what we can see. So you can see we've finally started trading. Remember, this is a weekly fair value gap. I'll just show you that now. So from this high to this low, we have a imbalance on the downside. So this is a buy side imbalance, SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. So it's inefficient on buy side delivery, which is why you can see we're reaching into that and trading into it. I have still got my eye set on this swing low because I want to see if price can touch it. And then obviously we have that 50% level as well, which I have my eyes set on as well. So there are targets in terms of upside that I'd like to see price reach before turning around. But it's nice to see that we finally reached the target, and we do have, like I said, a nice daily fair value gap resting here that will likely get traded to in the new day. So once this has been traded in, depending on how we treat that 50% level, we may have a reversal, or again, similar to what I was just showing on dollar. If we continue, then I'd want to see these highs get taken and this fair value gap completely disregarded. But if this fair value gap does get disregarded, it is a weekly fair value gap, so that would say a lot for the rest of the rest of the month, to be honest, because I'd be surprised if it managed to fill it, is what I'm saying. But overall, I'm expecting a continuation to the upside, and then I'd like to see some kind of retracement. So let's go to the 1 hour. You can see our price is constantly stacking on itself here and here, and now we're just consolidating. And you got to remember that this is the fair value gap, so it's likely going to find support within it. So I'm not really anticipating price to necessarily come back down below this low, since we've already found support on it. But again, we'll have to see what happens during the Asian session, and based off that, we can get a nice grasp of where price is likely to draw to. But overall, we know our draw liquidity is here because we have a buy side inefficiency. So price is going to want to draw into that. So something to consider. But make sure to watch yesterday's video where I explained and outlined how I expected price to come down into here and then expand, because it's done it absolutely perfectly. And yeah, you'll see that I have sell side liquidity marked out down here, because the reason for that is because once we do have another reversals and once we turn around, and I am kind of expecting the end of the week to be quite aggressive in terms of sell side. If that does happen though, we'll see after Wednesday, but if that does happen, I would want to see the sell side get tagged specifically, and I'll explain that in tomorrow's video depending on where price is. But overall, tomorrow we might want to make the high of the week and then see what happens after that. So let's go to Euro USD just to finish off. Beautiful price action once again, but we'll go to the daily to start. You'll see we took out that buy side liquidity just as we called, and you'll see there's also a nice fair value gap resting here. We haven't actually traded into it yet, so that's likely what's going to happen tomorrow. Let's go to the 4 hour. You can see there is a nice relative equal highs above there, so price will have to expand quite aggressively if it is going to reach into that, but I'm not very sure. Is that 1 second? Yeah, that's all the way up there. So I'm not with euro. I'm a little bit in terms of I'm not really sure what price wants to do. It's nice to see us grab that buy side, but I do expect these highs to get ran one more time, because it's rare that price will just hit it once and then retrace. So I'd anticipate this high to get taken out one more time. We may want to trade into this fair value gap here. This is an hourly fair value gap though, but that is something to keep our eyes set on. And there's also an bearish order block. what if we do trade into this, that will fill the range completely, and if we do want to reverse from then on, then that will allow for that to happen, but we'd have to see a nice break in market structure. But that's just something to consider. But yeah, you can see price came up, found support on this bearish turn bullish order block. Technically it's a breaker. Why? Low, high, low, low, then we broke higher. You see our price comes back down, touches that, beautiful entry, traded right up into that. This is the daily fair value gap, and then we eventually pulled back, and then during the New York session we finally took out that buy side liquidity. So again, beautiful day, definitely something to go and look back on. I do highly recommend you watch yesterday's video and Sunday's video, because I've been pretty accurate this week, and considering the geopolitical events, I didn't think I'd be so accurate, but it's looking quite positive. But I hope everyone's well. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.